There is a certain satisfaction to being able to accomplish the task and look back and feel satisfaction at what we've done. And sometimes I feel like some of the most satisfying. So I have a very large garden. I'm very much into my plants and my herbs and my flowers. And it's one of the most satisfying things every spring after you spent hours and hours weeding your garden to look back over the land and to see what you've accomplished. And it's very tangible when you're gardening. You can see the results of your labor. But some of the things that we are working on span our entire lifetime. And so it's harder for us to see the results of that. But if we can look back in retrospect, like for instance, people who are working on self-development, if you can look back in retrospect over your life, you can see how far you've come and how much you've developed. But we don't, it's not like a cultural thing to sit back and to look over one's life in retrospect. And one of my favorite spiritual teachers, one of his meditative practices that he has his students do every single night is at night before you go to bed, we are to review our day in reverse order. But we review it not having an emotional connection to it. Review it as if you're a third party.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Bonnie D'Angelo, a passionate clinical herbalist and holistic health consultant with a master's in herbal medicine and a heart dedicated to restoring native plants. Bonnie blends ancient wisdom with modern science to help others find relief from pain and embrace wellness. Let's dive into Bonnie's journey and discover the quote that has inspired her along the way. Tell me your name and your favorite quote.
Okay, so my name is Bonnie D'Angelo, and my favorite quote currently, because life always has its changes, is if you want to make God laugh, make plans.
For some reason, when you said the quote, my network just dropped, and all
Oh
I could
no.
hear was life always has its changes. So I would ask you politely, could you repeat it?
Yes, I'll start over again. So my name is Bonnie D'Angelo, and my favorite quote is if you want to make God laugh, make plans.
Ooh, wow, wow. Wow. How long have you known the quote?
Um, it's been resonating in the back of my mind for about a year now, ever since I heard it, because I had reached this point where I was getting frustrated because I'm a planner and I would make these plans and they wouldn't always come out the way that I expected them to. And somebody said the quote to me and it revolutionized the way I was approaching life. It lightened the load off of me. And now every time I start thinking in my mind of how I want things to go and how they're going to turn out, I stop myself because I realize that life is more fluid and things change. And it has helped me to approach my work and my life in a totally different way. And so it is absolutely currently my favorite quote because every time I start to think things are going to go this way, that way, I say, nope, nope, you're making God laugh. You better stop.
Yeah, I mean it's a good thing to make God laugh.
Well, I've made him laugh enough in my lifetime. I don't need
Yeah.
to make him laugh anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, because one time we talked about not to um a guest talked mentioned the quotes about flexibility. Is people make plans and then instead of being focused on where they're trying to go to, right? They are so obsessed about the plan, such that if anything happens to the plan, it causes chaos. They are
Yeah.
destabilized. They can't take the next step. They're afraid.
Yeah, you're hard to see it's hard to see past the roadblocks when you have a rigid perspective of how things are going to go in your mind. And so the quote really just helped me to loosen up and see that life, like I said, is fluid. It's moving, it's changing, and I need to be able to move and change with those plans, or I'm going to constantly face disappointment. And I'll say another quote that I really love. And I was recently on another podcast, and we were having a debate. I thought that the quote was from one person, and they were saying, "No, I thought the quote was from this person." And so the quote is that most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And that one really resonated with me as well because I'm a very ambitious person. And so I always have these ideas of what I'm going to accomplish in this time frame. And then I find myself in a position where I'm staying up till midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning every night, trying to accomplish those goals. And I wasn't living and enjoying the experience. I was working for the goal. I was working for the plan that I had made. And the combination of those two has really shaped my life. I'm actually getting more done by doing less. And life is more fun and more fluid. And I have more freedom in realizing that I don't have to accomplish all of these things, that in the act of being and doing my service to humanity, that I am accomplishing what God wants me to accomplish. And I don't have to make these 3-year action plans and all of these things that in the end are just going to make God laugh, because the universe is going to throw a curveball at me and something is going to come up and I'm going to have to learn to pivot and shift. And so it has made my life so much better to kind of have those two quotes in my back pocket.
When you mentioned the quote about people overestimating what they can do in a year and underestimating what they can do, it's as though this everything just aligned, because I think about 4 hours ago I was reading an email, and he said most people are so consigned and obsessed. They obsess over big things like, what would my career be, who will I marry, and stuff like that, right? And those big goals. And he said that you don't have to obsess over those things. The question you should just ask yourself is, what would an average Tuesday look like for me for the next 4,000 or the number of thousands of Tuesdays you would have, right, in a lifetime? And when he broke down what his Tuesdays looks like, he wakes up, exercise, shows up for work, and after the work, spends some time with the kids, right? And that's the way his Tuesday looks like. Everything was pretty simple. There was nothing to stress over.
Yeah, I love that. Nothing to stress over. It's all just simple. So that's really beautiful. I'm reminded of a story in this book called The 12 Keys of Wisdom. And there are these 12 short stories. They're like 4 or 5 pages long. And in one of the stories, it tells about this woman who works at a Chinese restaurant. And she's the one who makes the fortune cookies for the restaurant. And every morning she gets into the restaurant before anyone else gets there and rolls out her meditation mat and faces the sun and prays and meditates. And during her meditation, she sees all of the faces of the people who are going to come into the restaurant for that day and is given their fortune that she should write on their cookie. Then when she's done meditating, she gets up and she makes the cookies and she puts the fortunes inside of them. And then during the day, she works as a waitress. And as each person comes in, she knows exactly which cookie is theirs with their fortune, and she gives it to them. And then one day, she had this young couple, a man and a woman, who were on a date. And she served both of them their fortune cookies. And they laughed and chuckled and showed each other. And the woman got up and went to the bathroom. And the man took his fortune and he looked it over and he looked it over. And he set his cookie aside and ate his fortune. And the waitress chuckled to herself because she realized that he understood the meaning of the fortune in a way that nobody else ever stood the meanings of the fortunes. And then he proceeded to take the fortune cookie and take a teeny tiny little bite and then wrap it up in a napkin and put it in his pocket. And the story goes on to say that the fortune says, "You will die a happy man." And the man thought to himself, well, perhaps today I will die, so I should make this the best day of my life. So he proceeded to leave the restaurant and go and have the most lovely day of his life. The next morning he woke up and he was still alive, and he went to his dresser where he had set the cookie and took one little bite of the cookie and set it down and said to himself, perhaps today I will die, so I should make this the happiest day of my life. And this continued on for many, many years. He lived to be a very old and happy man. And at his funeral, he had hundreds of people at his funeral because everybody loved him. And the message of the story is every day we may die. And so every day we should make it the happiest day of our lives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, when we look at it, like, you realize that you cannot control decades, you cannot control a year, a week, or a month. the unit of time you can really, really understand that kind of comprehend is a day.
Yeah, and I think also too, like here in our human experiences, we view time as linear, and time in the rest of the universe is not as linear as it is here on earth in our human experience. And those who study spiritual sciences and occult wisdom will know and understand that there are universes upon universes and that time doesn't exist in some of these. And so from our limited perspective and understanding of life, we view it as these short moments in time, but really it's more of a continuation. And if we can learn to let go, especially like the statement of, I don't have enough time to do this. If you continuously say to yourself, I do not have enough time, then you will never have enough time. And it was a meditative practice that I started at one point in time because I found myself constantly saying, I do not have enough time to do everything I need to do. And so I started out my day meditating and praying and saying, I have enough time to accomplish everything that I need to accomplish for the day. And I
Yeah.
would find myself getting through the day, and at the end of the day, everything was accomplished, and I felt satisfied and happy. But it was a reframing of my perspective of my day. Instead of looking at my desk, which right now has like 30 sticky notes on it because I have so much work well backed up this week, instead of looking at my desk and being like, oh, I don't have time to accomplish all of this today, saying that I have enough time to accomplish everything I need to accomplish doesn't necessarily mean that every single one of these sticky notes will be off of my desk by the end of the day. But I would have accomplished that in which was required of me. And some of this just isn't necessary. And when we can become a little bit freer with our time, we also start to free other people from their time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing you mentioned the thing about sticky notes because I do have a note where I write my to-dos, and I think some of the collection of notes I've kept over the years, right? I was just going through them, and I realized that I never went back to like tick the task and say, "Oh, done or not done." But for all the tasks, I could look at. I knew that I had completed them. I eventually did all of them, and I was like, "What?" Wow. Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
There is a certain satisfaction to being able to accomplish the task and look back and feel satisfaction at what we've done. And sometimes I feel like some of the most satisfying. So I have a very large garden. I'm very much into my plants and my herbs and my flowers. And it's one of the most satisfying things every spring after you spent hours and hours weeding your garden to look back over the land and to see what you've accomplished. And it's very tangible when you're gardening. You can see the results of your labor. But some of the things that we are working on span our entire lifetime. And so it's harder for us to see the results of that. But if we can look back in retrospect, like for instance, people who are working on self-development, if you can look back in retrospect over your life, you can see how far you've come and how much you've developed. But we don't, it's not like a cultural thing to sit back and to look over one's life in retrospect. And one of my favorite spiritual teachers, one of his meditative practices that he has his students do every single night is at night before you go to bed, we are to review our day in reverse order. But we review it not having an emotional connection to it, review it as if you're a third party, just looking over the array of your day and the events without sitting in one particular place having an emotional feeling of like, I wish I did this or I wish I did that. No, you look at the instance and you say, this happened, this took place, and this was the way it went. And then you move on to the next event of the day. And what this does is it helps us within our subconscious is to order those events so then we don't go to bed with our heads racing about all of the thoughts of the day. It shuts off part of that emotional response of, oh, I wish I had done this or I wish I had done that better, and says, no, I accept the way that things happened for the day. At that moment in time, I did the best that I could do with my own personal growth and development and where I'm at in life. And those were the choices that I made. And tomorrow is another day, and I can try again to do better. And so it's a really excellent practice that helps to center people, especially if people have a lot of anxiety and tend to have insomnia because they have a restless mind. It can really like center you in yourself. And after several months or even years of doing the practice daily, it really becomes fruitful for a person's life.
Yeah. When you mention plan, one of the things I notice is that there are people who plan because they feel like planning would help them escape process, which is not true.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a very good point.
And oh, thank you so much, Bonnie.
You're very welcome. It was lovely talking to you, and I listened to a few of your episodes, but I'm going to have to check out more so I can have some more daily quotes.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me, Bonnie. Honest.
It's
Wow.
always fascinating to hear the bits of wisdom that people have gathered over their life. If you think about the billions of people on this planet, and if you could get one quote from every single person on this planet and put it together into a compilation, just imagine what you would learn.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And oftentimes the thing about people having quotes over the years is that there's what we call there's a lived experience, there's the depth to the quotes. So it's not just, oh, I saw this quote on the book and it's interesting. It's more like, yeah, life, we want to make God laugh, make plans. It's not just coming out of a place where I saw the quotes, it was interesting. It's more, I've over the years I've made plans and I've been always, it's normal. I was surprised. Yeah,
Yeah, they're lessons that you've learned and they've lived with you, and that's what makes a good quote. I have several books on my bookshelf that are books of quotes, and some of them are really great quotes, but I always found it because most of them somebody's given me. I didn't purchase a book. Somebody gave me them like, "Oh, these are really great quotes. You might like them." And I would read through a few of them, but I think it's the quotes that are the most phenomenal ones are the ones that come to us in a moment in time or in a moment of crises, and they really resonate. And then
yeah,
they resound in the back of our mind, constantly reminding us. And I've been working a lot over the years to listen to the inner voice inside of my head and even about the simple things. And the more that I listen to it, the more that I find that it helps me on the smallest task of the day. Like sometimes the voice will say, "Oh, you should grab that piece of paper because you're going to need it." And I'm like, "Why would I need it? I'm going to go get a drink of water or something else." And I'm like, "Why would I need that piece of paper?" And then I'll get a phone call and I'll need a piece of paper to write down somebody's
yeah,
information. And so
yeah.
the more we listen to that voice, the more it speaks to us in these little subtle ways where you may think like, "Oh, that's silly. Why would I do that?" But if you
Mm.
listen later on, you're like, "Oh, I'm so glad I listened to that voice."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, the strange thing that happens is that I have this. I don't know if it's straight, but it's happened countless times that I start wondering what's going on here. I start thinking of something, and the next thing that happens is that a video pops up. I meet someone. I go like something just happened that I'm like, this has been the idea in my head. How come I'm seeing this thing? What is going on? Is it that this stuff was planned?
I do believe that there is like a group consciousness and that these ideas come to us from the cosmos, from the universe, and that they stream into humanity. And that is what is making that subtle, energetic connection from place to place. Like you're in Nigeria and I'm here in the United States, but we can have a beautiful conversation about things that can resonate across borders.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing, with these ideas that come to us. They're moving humanity along in a course where we are all together, even if we are separated by thousands of miles and may never see each other in person, there is still something that connects us by this thin thread.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Bonnie. I'm really glad I had this conversation with you, and thanks for sharing your quotes with me and for helping me make sense of it. What do you do professionally? And
Yeah, so professionally, I'm a holistic herbal consultant. And I have an herbal products company where I work with people who have chronic medical conditions that they are looking to find resolutions for naturally, or perhaps they are no conventional treatments. So sometimes people come to me um, with chronic problems that they really need help. My favorite thing is to be able to help somebody who was unable to live their life because of pain or medical conditions, and to be able to see them live their lives, to be able to enjoy their grandchildren, their children. That's the most beautiful gift that I can give to humanity. And so I have been working to develop an herbal products line for chronic debilitating pain conditions such as neuropathy. We even have a product for people who have had amputations, because one of the issues after somebody has had an amputation is they get what's called phantom pains. And these phantom pains are where the brain still recognizes that the leg, for instance, was there, and so they'll get an itch or an ache, they can't scratch it and they can't do anything
yeah,
about it. And there is no pharmaceutical drug on the market that will take away that pain. And so these people are truly suffering. And so part of my work is merging science and spiritual science and herbal medicine together. And through that, I've been able to develop a topical that helps people with their phantom pain. And most people within 2 to 3 minutes will have their pain disappear. And that has been one of my greatest loves and my greatest work while I have been here on the earth, other than raising my 4 children, because of course that is a labor of love.
yeah,
It's being able to help people to live their best lives.
yeah. Can you see me move on the screen?
Yeah, I can see you moving. Yes.
Okay, because is there any chance that that can on the top? Okay, is it my on your right? Yeah. Okay, my left or your right? Is that your product?
From what I see in my screen, I don't see any of my products. I would have to like slightly turn my screen
It's white.
that
It has
way.
a blue what do you call it now? Sticker on the body. It's completely white. It's
Oh,
you see what I'm talking about?
no,
It's on the shelf.
that is a supplement. So I have a professional supplement line that I provide to my clients, and so that one that you're seeing, that large bottle, is a daily meal replacement shake that I mostly use for my diabetic patients to help them to manage their
I-
blood
Is,
sugar.
is it your product
Uh,
or
no, it's not. So this is one of my topicals right here. My topical company is called Herbal. And so this one that I grabbed off my table is our Dit Dao Jiao. I don't know if you've ever heard of what a Dit Dao Jiao is, but
it's the first time I'm hearing it?
it's a traditional Chinese formula that's called a hit medicine. And it was used by the martial arts masters, and they would apply this formula to their body after a match to prevent damage. So we use this one for sports teams and athletes and all kinds of things. So if you think like hockey players are getting busted up constantly when they're playing the sport. And so this helps to prevent any injuries and reduce inflammation in the body. And then, we have other ones. So this
Yeah,
one is Regen Vein, and this is for people who have blood flow issues to their extremities. So it helps to improve their circulation. And so we have a whole product line
yeah,
of
yeah,
ones very specific.
yeah. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Uh,
Yes.
the thing right now is I cannot see anything like the screen is static because my internet is bad. But in the final production, the audience will be able to see the video and everything. So that's why I was just shaking my head. I couldn't just see
Okay.
anything you were picking up. But rest assured that it will be in the video.
I know you did leave. You lost connection for a moment, and I just kept finishing my sentence because I figured, oh well, it will be recorded so
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
hear
But
me.
then it's hard for me to like follow up on the conversation and then talk to you in real time. But you've been really understanding. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me on today, and I wish you the best in all your endeavors and success in life.
If people want to learn more about all those things you mentioned, they want to check it out, where can they do that?
So you can check out everything on my website, bonniediarcangelo.com. It's my name without the apostrophe. And then if you're interested in some of my topical products, that is on our website, and that's etherbal.com, and it's spelled with an AE. And so if you have show notes, we can put that in there for people.
Okay, thank you so much. I will be sure to grab the links from Podmatch, and if there is anyone I cannot find, I'll let you know. Thank you so much. It's been fun chatting with you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatablewisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.